My chemistry teacher made the Muslim kids sit in the back for safety reasons. Last month, she was arrested for planting bomb threats in their lockers. I was in Mrs. Snuggles's AP chemistry class when she announced the new seating arrangement. She stood at the front with her clipboard, calling names for the first 3 rows. All the white kids got called first. Then she paused and looked toward the back corner where Amira, Rashid, and Zara always sat together. She cleared her throat and said the back rows would be for students who might present safety concerns during dangerous experiments. Everyone knew what she meant. The 3 Muslim students in our class exchanged glances but didn't say anything. They'd learned to pick their battles carefully in our small town. Mrs. Snuggles had been teaching at Lincoln High for 15 years. She had tenure and good test scores. Parents loved her because she pushed kids to succeed and never gave easy A's. But over the past 2 years, something had shifted. It started small with comments about certain students needing extra supervision. She'd make Amira show her backpack contents before every lab. She'd ask Rashid to explain why he was absent on certain Fridays. Little things that felt wrong but weren't quite actionable. The administration always backed her up when parents complained. During our unit on explosive reactions, Mrs. Snuggles made the Muslim students sit in the hall while she demonstrated with volatile compounds. She said their presence made other students nervous and she couldn't focus on safety with distractions in the room. Principal Davies supported her decision when Amira's parents called to complain. He said teacher discretion in lab safety was non-negotiable. The 3 students had to learn the material from textbooks while the rest of us got hands-on experience that would be crucial for our AP exams. The real escalation started in October when someone spray-painted anti-Muslim slurs on the gymnasium wall. Mrs. Snuggles was the first teacher to arrive that morning and saw the graffiti before maintenance cleaned it. During first period, she made a point of asking our 3 Muslim students if they knew anything about vandalism on school property. She said their community needed to take responsibility for the rising tensions they were causing. Rashid's face went red, but he stayed quiet. Zara started crying and ran out of the classroom. That same week, Mrs. Snuggles began requiring Amira, Rashid, and Zara to store their backpacks in a separate cabinet during class. She said it was a new security measure for students who might be carrying concerning materials. She made them empty their bags in front of everyone before each lab session, examining every item while explaining chemical compounds that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. The humiliation was systematic and deliberate. Other students started avoiding sitting near them at lunch. I started noticing more disturbing patterns in Mrs. Snuggles's behavior. She would time how long the Muslim students took in the bathroom and question them if they were gone more than 5 minutes. She installed a mirror on her desk position to watch them constantly during class. When Amira answered questions correctly, Mrs. Snuggles would ask follow-up questions designed to trip her up, then suggest she might be cheating if she knew advanced concepts. The psychological warfare was relentless and calculated. In November, someone called in a bomb threat during 3rd period. The school evacuated, and police brought dogs to search lockers. Mrs. Snuggles stood with the officers as they went through student belongings, pointing out which lockers belonged to our Muslim classmates. She told them those students had been acting suspicious lately, and suggested they search those areas more thoroughly. The dogs found nothing, but the message was clear. She was building a narrative that would justify whatever came next. What we didn't know then was that Mrs. Snuggles had been documenting everything in a private journal. She photographed the Muslim students' cars in the parking lot, noting license plates and arrival times. She recorded their lunch conversations from across the cafeteria, using a small device hidden in her jacket pocket. She even followed Amira's family to their mosque on Fridays, taking pictures of other families entering and leaving. Her surveillance was extensive and completely illegal. The harassment intensified after Thanksgiving break. Mrs. Snuggles started requiring the 3 students to arrive 15 minutes early for additional security screening. She'd search their belongings while explaining to other arriving students how certain cultural backgrounds required extra vigilance. She made them recite the Pledge of Allegiance before every class and questioned their pronunciation of certain words. If they hesitated or made mistakes, she'd lecture the class about divided loyalties and the importance of American values. Casey, my lab partner, started getting nervous about what was happening. Her dad was a lawyer, and she understood that Mrs. Snuggles's behavior was crossing legal lines. We began secretly recording her discriminatory comments using our phones hidden in pencil cases. Mrs. Snuggles was so confident in her authority that she never tried to hide her prejudice. She would openly discuss her theories about Islamic infiltration of American schools with other teachers in the hallway between classes. By December, other teachers were noticing the pattern, but no one spoke up. Mrs. Snuggles was department head and had influence over their performance reviews. She'd cultivated relationships with school board members and donated regularly to their campaigns. When Mr. Wallace from Social Studies tried to raise concerns about her methods, she accused him of undermining school safety and suggested he was too liberal to understand real threats. The administration sided with her experience and credentials over his accusations. Mrs. Snuggles escalated her psychological torture after winter break. She created a fake assignment requiring students to research terrorist attacks and their methodologies, then specifically assigned the Muslim students to present on Islamic extremism, while the rest of us got topics like cybersecurity and environmental terrorism. She wanted to force them to defend their religion in front of classmates who were already suspicious. When they objected, she threatened to fail them for refusing to complete coursework. The breaking point came during our final exam review in January. Mrs. E. Snuggles announced that students with questionable backgrounds couldn't participate in the hands-on review sessions that would prepare them for the practical portion of the AP test. Amira, Rashid, and Zara would have to study alone while their classmates got crucial practice with equipment. This wasn't just harassment anymore. She was actively sabotaging their academic futures. Their college applications depended on AP scores, and she was ensuring they'd fail. That's when I decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. I started documenting everything with my phone, recording her comments, and taking photos of the discriminatory seating charts she posted. My best friend Casey helped me create a group chat with other students who were witnessing this systematic abuse. We collected statements and evidence, building a case that couldn't be ignored. But we needed more than student testimony to take down a tenured teacher with 15 years of sterling recommendations. Meanwhile, Mrs. Snuggles was escalating her activities outside school. She joined online forums dedicated to exposing Islamic threats in American communities. Using the pseudonym Patriot Teacher 47, she shared detailed information about our Muslim students and their families. She posted photos of their homes, cars, and daily routines. Other forum members encouraged her to take more direct action to protect her school and community from these obvious security risks. The breakthrough came when Amira's older sister Layla got involved. She'd graduated 2 years earlier and now worked as a paralegal downtown. She knew how to file formal complaints and navigate bureaucratic systems. She helped us organize our evidence into official reports that we submitted to the State Education Department and the Civil Rights Division of the FBI. She also contacted a local news reporter who specialized in discrimination cases and was willing to investigate our allegations. Mrs. Snuggles somehow found out about our reporting efforts. The next day, she pulled me aside after class and asked if I was having problems with certain classmates. She said she'd noticed I was spending a lot of time with students who might not have my best interests at heart. She warned me that associating with troublemakers could affect my college recommendations and suggested I distance myself from students who were creating drama where none existed. Her intimidation tactics backfired completely. I realized she was panicking because our evidence was solid and she knew it. I recorded our entire conversation and sent it immediately to Layla, who forwarded it to the FBI agents handling our case. Mrs. Snuggles had just threatened a student for reporting civil rights violations. Her behavior was becoming more desperate and dangerous by the day. In February, things escalated beyond anything we could have imagined. Someone planted a suspicious package in Rashid's locker that looked like an improvised explosive device. The school evacuated again, and the bomb squad was called in. The package turned out to be harmless, but it contained materials that matched chemicals from Mrs. Snuggles' laboratory. Security cameras showed someone entering the school after hours with a keycard, but the footage was too dark to identify faces. The FBI opened an investigation into domestic terrorism threats. Mrs. Snuggles immediately suggested the device was planted by foreign extremists, trying to make the school look bad. She told investigators that Muslim students often created false flag operations to generate sympathy and deflect suspicion from their real activities. She volunteered to provide character assessments of the 3 students and offered access to her private files on their behavior patterns. She seemed helpful and concerned, playing the role of a dedicated teacher protecting her students from outside threats. But the FBI agents weren't stupid. They noticed inconsistencies in her story and began investigating her background more thoroughly. They discovered she'd been visiting extremist websites and participating in anti-Muslim forums under fake names. Her browser history showed searches for bomb-making materials and instructions for creating realistic-looking fake explosives. Security footage from a nearby convenience store showed her purchasing items that matched components found in the device planted in Rashid's locker. Agent Martinez, the lead investigator, started interviewing students individually. When she talked to me, I showed her months of recorded evidence documenting Mrs. Snuggles' systematic harassment. The agent's face got darker as she listened to recording after recording of discriminatory comments and threats. She said this was the most comprehensive case of teacher-perpetrated hate crimes she'd encountered in 15 years of civil rights investigations. The investigation revealed Mrs. Snuggles had been systematically documenting the 3 Muslim students' daily routines, taking photos of their cars in the parking lot, and tracking their family members' social media accounts. She'd created detailed profiles of their activities and had been sharing this information with white supremacist groups online. She was planning to escalate the fake threats until she could justify having them arrested or expelled, effectively destroying their futures while positioning herself as a hero who protected the school. What made it worse was discovering she wasn't working alone. Mrs. Snuggles had recruited 2 other teachers and a security guard to help with surveillance and evidence planting. They called themselves the Lincoln Patriots and met monthly at her house to coordinate their activities. They had similar operations planned for the middle school and elementary school, targeting younger Muslim students before they could become real threats to American values. In March, federal agents arrested Mrs. Snuggles at her home at 5 in the morning. They found bomb-making materials in her garage, along with detailed plans for more sophisticated attacks she planned to blame on the Muslim students. Her computer contained hundreds of photos and documents she'd compiled about Muslim families in our town. She'd been building cases against multiple students across different schools, using her position as a respected teacher to gather intelligence for hate groups. The arrest made national news, and our small town exploded with controversy. Half the community couldn't believe their beloved chemistry teacher was capable of such hatred. They organized rallies supporting her and claiming she was being framed by liberal activists and foreign terrorists. The other half was horrified to discover the systematic abuse that had been happening under their noses. Parents demanded investigations into how the school administration had enabled her behavior for so long. Principal Davies tried to claim he had no knowledge of Mrs. Snuggles' discriminatory practices, but our documented evidence proved otherwise. We had recordings of him supporting her decisions and emails where he dismissed parent complaints about her treatment of Muslim students. The school board placed him on administrative leave, pending their own investigation. 3 other teachers who had stayed silent about her behavior were also suspended. The media attention brought out more victims. Former students came forward with stories of Mrs. Snuggles' bias going back almost a decade. A Hispanic student from 2018 described how she'd made him sit separately during labs because she said his culture didn't value safety. An immigrant family from Somalia revealed she'd tried to have their daughter expelled for wearing traditional clothing that she claimed violated dress codes. The pattern of targeted harassment was extensive and well documented. Amira, Rashid, and Zara became reluctant heroes in the media coverage, but the attention was overwhelming for teenagers who just wanted to study chemistry and get into college. Death threats poured in from Mrs. Snuggles' supporters who believed the students were part of a conspiracy to destroy good American teachers. Their families hired private security and considered moving to another state. The FBI had to provide protection details for all 3 households. During the investigation, we discovered Mrs. Snuggles had planted evidence in other students' lockers too. Small amounts of suspicious chemicals that could be interpreted as bomb-making materials. Anonymous tips called in about students acting strange or asking unusual questions. She'd been systematically building cases against multiple Muslim students, planning to expose them all at once as a terrorist cell operating within the school. The legal proceedings revealed the full scope of Mrs. Snuggles' activities. She'd been coordinating with hate groups in 6 different states, sharing information about Muslim students and their families. She'd helped plan similar frame-up operations at other schools, though ours was the first where she'd escalated to actual bomb threats. Federal prosecutors charged her with domestic terrorism, civil rights violations, and conspiracy to commit hate crimes. She faced up to 25 years in federal prison. Her co-conspirators started cooperating with prosecutors to reduce their own sentences. They revealed Mrs. Snuggles had been the mastermind, recruiting them gradually by sharing her concerns about Islamic infiltration. She'd convinced them they were protecting American children by gathering intelligence on suspicious families. They provided detailed testimony about her planning and the sophisticated surveillance equipment she'd purchased to monitor Muslim students and their families. During her trial, Mrs. Snuggles showed no remorse for her actions. She testified that she was protecting American students from radical Islamic infiltration and that the Muslim students were obviously guilty of something, or they wouldn't have been so suspicious. Her defense team tried to argue she was mentally ill, but psychiatrists found her competent and calculated in her hatred. She'd spent months planning each escalation, carefully building her false narrative while destroying evidence of her real activities. The most damning evidence came from her own journals and computer files. She'd documented everything, apparently planning to write a book about her heroic efforts to expose Islamic terrorism in American schools. Her writings revealed deep paranoia and hatred, but also careful calculation and planning. She wasn't insane. She was a methodical domestic terrorist who'd used her position of trust to target children. The jury found her guilty on all charges after deliberating for less than 3 hours. The judge sentenced her to 18 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. She was also ordered to pay restitution to the 3 students whose lives she'd tried to destroy. As they led her away in handcuffs, she turned to look at Amira, Rashid, and Zara one last time. Instead of apology or shame, her face showed only rage that her perfect plan had been exposed. The school district settled civil rights lawsuits filed by all 3 families for amounts that were never disclosed publicly, though sources suggested the total exceeded $2 million. They implemented mandatory bias training for all staff and created new reporting procedures for discrimination complaints. Principal Davies was terminated and lost his teaching license. The chemistry department was completely restructured with new leadership and oversight protocols to prevent future abuse. The case sparked federal legislation requiring background checks for teachers that included monitoring of extremist online activities. Schools nationwide implemented new training programs about recognizing and preventing discrimination. Mrs. Snuggles became a cautionary tale used in education programs about the dangers of unchecked authority and systematic bias in educational settings. 6 months later, Amira got accepted to MIT with a full scholarship. Rashid was admitted to Johns Hopkins pre-med program. Zara received early admission to Stanford. They'd not only survived Mrs. Snuggles' attempt to destroy their futures, but had emerged stronger and more determined than ever. The three of them started a non-profit organization to help other Muslim students report discrimination and fight back against systematic harassment in schools across the country. Their courage had exposed a domestic terrorist and saved countless other students from similar abuse.